All right, hello YouTube, and welcome to today's stream. Today's stream, I'm going to be doing the test runs for Genshin Impact version 3.7 Phase 2. And since they're all reruns, all the 5 stars and the 4 stars, I'm going to just do the trials for 2 5 stars. And also, I got a comment suggesting that I give you suggestions on what I think you should, who I think you should pull, which I think, honestly, me personally, I think that's a really ridiculous thing to do because I have no idea which characters you have on your account, which characters you like, which characters you don't. So I'm going to give you my best guess at what I think you should do. But overall, use your own intuition. Your intuition probably won't let you down. um, probably is more reliable than. But if you want my advice, I'll give it to you. I also got a request to do more as far as talking about how to what's involved in leveling the characters. So I will do that as well. But now it's reading time. Alhaitham performs a thrust when his elemental skill is used, generating chisel light mirrors and causing his normal charged and plunging attacks to be temporarily converted to dendro damage. When chisel light mirrors are present, these attacks will also activate projection attacks when they hit opponents, with the power of said projection attacks being determined by the number of mirrors present. Alhaitham's elemental burst will deal multiple instances of dendro damage to opponents in quick succession. If chisel light mirrors are present, they'll all be consumed to increase the number of damage. After this ability is unleashed, new chisel light mirrors will be created based on the number of said mirrors consumed, which basically means if you use 3 chisel light mirrors, you have 0. If you use 2, you have 1. If you used 1, you now have 2, and if you didn't have any, well, now you have all 3. And then the rest of it. So, what else is there to say about this guy? I have no idea. So we're playing this with Fischl and Barbara. Let's see his Light of Foliar Incision, which has a massive crit damage stat. And overall, I will talk a little bit more about the weapons a little bit later because I will talk about the weapons banner. I think this is a great sword for Alhaitham, but I don't think it's a great sword for anyone whose name is not Alhaitham. So this is something to think about if you're going for Alhaitham. The sword might be a good idea. Okay, so they're using the Gilded Dreams 4 piece. I think that's probably what I would recommend to do. But anyway, let's go ahead and try this stuff out. So basically, when he does his skill, there's 2 of the chisel light mirrors, and they go away one at a time. I know I'll start the challenge later. I just want to talk a little bit more about the chisel mirrors. The other thing that I noticed about the chisel mirrors from last time was you can create the chisel mirrors. If you swap with somebody else, there go the chisel mirror. Even if you go back to Alhaitham, no chisel mirrors are left. I will give this a try again. I remember I found this to be quite difficult, but because it seems like what you're basically trying to do is to keep them on the field at this as much as you can. Okay, so I thought it said that I could. Okay, so the charge attacks are creating mirrors. It just only creates one mirror. So that's gonna be your When you have Alhaitham on the field, you're going to use the charged attack to generate one mirror, the skill to generate two more mirrors, and then do that. And hopefully not take damage just like this, just like I just did. I mean, I could probably practice this lot more, and do
Plans
a
changed.
lot better. Okay, now I'm just. Oh no,
Let's
she's on
dance.
that. Okay,
By royal decree.
okay, I've got that. Okay, I I think that Alhaitham definitely has. I mean, you can definitely get. You can definitely do quite a bit with him if you bother to learn how to use his talents correctly. See, and yeah, so I definitely think that there's a lot of good that can come out of it. I just don't know if it's for me or not. In fact, I'm kind of as I've tested that again, and I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll see something different than I noticed last time. What I noticed was it's complicated. I'd have to learn. I'd have to spend a lot of time learning and understanding that um, uh, attack pattern. And I think I got a little bit better at that this time. But it's not like I don't already have perfectly good Benjo damage character. Not go walking off the side of it. Oh, why am I up here anyway? But yes, I mean, I I have built Lumine's attack power and constellations and artifacts up quite a bit, and she also has a 5-star weapon. So for me, I'm probably not going to get uh, the most value out of Alhaith as someone else would. So, but there's a lot of people who really like Alhaitham, and I just started a trial for Alhaitham again. Didn't oh, well, okay. We'll go out and come back in again. But meanwhile, while I'm doing that, let's go ahead and show the character ascension table for both Alhaitham and for Kazuha. Um, so overall, the I would say that there's positives and negatives for both. Um, if you're looking to know which one is easier, which one's harder, for Kazuha, you will definitely need to be in Inazuma before you'll be able to level him up to any to um, for any significance. Magu Kenki is on Yashiori Island. Uh, the sea Ganoderma is found on pretty much all of the shores of Inazuma, and aside from that, diligence you can get in Leeway. The Gilded Scale is from Ajdaha, which is a weekly boss, also um, in Leeway, and his best in set 4-piece Destined Venerer. I don't think that there's anyone who will say anything different. Uh, as I mean, maybe some people will, but I think that's the best way to go. I do remember that when they brought out a second EM set, people were testing to see whether the double EM set would work better on Kazuha than the Viridescent Venerer set. And I remember that it was a pretty conclusive um, uh, result. What that the Viridescent Venerer is the best artifact set for him. And for Kazuha, his signature weapon is an EM weapon, but I think that most EM and energy recharge swords would work just I I use a sacrificial sword on him, and I don't usually have any problems. As for Alhaitham, you will need a boss that you get in the desert somewhere. I think it would be unlocked even if you haven't done chapter 3, but even if you don't have that, the Mirror of Mushin is only available if you have completed chapter 3 act 5. So keep that in mind if you're still behind in the story, because you may not have Alhaitham right away.
This
The
scenery is
biggest
wonderful.
difference between
Surely enough to convince
Alhaitham and
anyone to become a
Kazuha
wanderer.
is that doesn't benefit Alhaitham is the grease sand pupas are much harder to get than the sea Ganoderma. The sea Ganoderma you'll probably get in 2 days of farming, but the grease sand pupas will take 3. And when I say 2 and 3 different days of farming, keep in mind that you'll need 2 daily resets for either of those to respawn. So, if you want to do them faster, you'll pretty much have to rely on co-op. Um, but the biggest negative for Kazuha that might slow you down, Magu Kenki drops turquoise and I believe also jade. So if you go for Kazuha, know that you will have to find other alternative ways to get turquoise, or either have them available. For Alhaitham, the I think the light of foliar incision is his best weapon, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. My personal recommendation is if is to go for a crit damage sword in the interim. You could either get the Blackcliff sword that is available every other month, there's I believe there's a another 5-star sword that is crit damage. I'm drawing a blank on which one it is. His best recommended artifact, and I think it was a pretty strong consensus from the experts that I watched, is the 4-piece Guild of Dreams. The specific set might differ a little bit depending on how you want to build Alhaitham, whereas the Kazuha's Viridescent Vinner set is basically just stacking enough energy recharge so that you can use your burst whenever it's not in cooldown, and to basically get as much elemental mastery otherwise. Okay, well, back to the test run. Now that I'm actually here, I've been in here for a while, and I did go past the text. But I actually have more experience with Kazuha than the uh, than the other one. So their build, I noticed that their elemental mastery is a little bit lower than mine. I believe mine is 791. I could check that later, but 745 is within range. Um, I would say that you're probably not going to bother with crits, unless you have decided to equip the Favonius sword, in which case you will need crit rate. They went for significantly less energy recharge than I have. I'm pretty sure I have 20.8. And they have a lot of animo damage bonus, which means they probably got an animo damage goblet with their 4-piece Viridescent Venerer. See, even a trial run doesn't get this wrong. So, okay, on to the test run. So basically, uh, there's not much to his kit. Basically, his skill launches him in the air, does swirl damage,
It's fine.
and his
Fallen
elemental
leaves.
burst
Adorn my night.
creates a swirl that takes on the first element it comes in contact with, and constantly swirls that element. Um, I know that we don't normally consider Kazuha to be uh,
Wind strike.
a DPS. I think it's that I think people usually say he's a support. which is fine, I suppose. I think the way you use him is kind of more synonymous with a support character rather than being a DPS of sorts. But overall, my recommendation, such as it is, if you, I think there's not very many characters I would say are a must have in Genshin Impact because I think there's a lot of different ways that you can play it. There's a lot of different, you can take different routes to get to the same place. Um, but that said, Kazuha is as close to a must pull as this game has. There may be a couple other 5-star characters I might put in that category, but I honestly think that if you're really, really looking for best value, if you don't have either one, I would definitely go for Kazuha. Now that brings us to the discussion about the constellations, because what do you do if you already have them? Want to go back to the trial run screen because I don't want to actually push any buttons that might cause me. Um, so we'll take a quick look at his constellations. Give you, and I'm not going to go through all of them because if you are making a value decision based on constellations, you're probably not going to be looking at C4 or C6 or anything like that. And if you're looking at those, then you're going to go get those constellations no matter what I say, anyways. So, uh, Kazua's first constellation decreases the cooldown of his burst. That is the swirling autumn leaves that we saw in the test run. It decreases it by 10%, and I believe the cooldown of it is 9 seconds. So that would bring it from 9 seconds to 8.1. I think that's right, but let me double check that just before. Oh, it's even worse. The duration is 8 seconds, so it would reduce the duration of it from 8 seconds to 7.2. But there's more using the well. Okay, no, I get it backwards. It was the skill that it decreases the cooldown. So if you held it down, it decreases to 8.1. That's what I remembered. But if you pressed it, which I usually don't do, that would decrease it to 5. But anyway, it's an okay constellation. Uh, using the burst resets the cooldown of the skill. Um, I have the sacrificial sword, which the cooldown is usually canceled anyway. So I don't really, for me personally, because I have the sacrificial sword, this constellation does very little. The only thing I would get out of this is it would make me less dependent on sacrificial. But I don't. But this is the constellation that caught my eye, and that is that the autumn whirlwind field created by the Kazuha Slash increases Kazuha's own elemental mastery for 200 for its duration, and it also increases the elemental mastery of characters within its field by 2. I think that's good. I think that would be a very good constellation to have. Constellation 3 boosts his skill. So you're really kind of looking at constellation, seeing whether you can get bridge the gap to get there. I would say that if you asked me whether it's better to roll the dice on Freedom Sworn for Kazuha or go for C2, I would say if those are your only two choices, go for C2. Just know that C2 might take you a while to get there. What kind of makes me a little bit uneasy about it is that C1, particularly for me, is kind of useless, or would get I would get very little out of it. So I mean, I could still get something out, but I think this would be better if better constellation if you're going for an EM sword all the way. So that is Kazuha. So let's go ahead and very carefully because I don't want to start the test run again. Going to look at Alhaitham's constellations. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't really understand Alhaitham's constellations all that much. He has kind of a similar constellation one to Kazuha, where the cooldown is decreased by 1.2 seconds. When a projection attack, those are the attacks by the mirrors, hit an opponent. Um, Overall, I really don't feel like I need to go into these as much. I feel like you should get Alhaitham, build him up, and then look at these constellations for yourself and see if you think that these are going to help you. Overall, if I had the choice, if I had Alhaitham in hand right now, and I had the choice of going for his weapon or going for these constellations, I think I would go for the weapon. I think his weapon is a little bit more. It's very specified for him. It doesn't really help as nearly as many other characters as it's pretty much for him and maybe like one or two people might be able, other sword users might be able to get something out. But I think that the people who are going to get the constellations are the Alhaitham mains, and they're not going to listen to what I'm going to say anyway. So, and rightly so. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So overall, if you don't have Kazuha, get him first. If you already have Kazuha and you want to get Alhaitham, I would say go ahead and get him. I don't. It's. I don't think I'm going to get enough value out of him to want to pull for him myself. I do have Kazuha right now. I'm right now kind of on the bubble of whether I want to go for his constellations or not. My biggest worry about the constellations is where I am with Kitty. As you can see, I have 95 wishes. That's quite a lot of wishes, and I'd have more if I paid attention to Spiral Abyss. But my pity right now, if I remember correctly, is 30. So I am guaranteed to get a 5-star pull should I want it. Um, but I'm not guaranteed to get two. Even if I realize that, oh yeah, the Spiral Abyss is out there, and I haven't tried it or on the cycle yet. I think I have time. I I I probably have time. How much time do I have? Oh, I can do it tomorrow. Okay, then I'll have some more Primogen or wishes to spend. But overall, I think that, and the good thing about getting C1 is it's it may be a step along the way, and it might not I might not see a lot of value out of it right now, but Kazuha will get another banner rerun at some point. It may be another year by the time he gets another rerun, but getting him to C1 now is one less constellation have to get later. And I'm not real. I just don't. I think that I will use Lumine way too much, way too many times. So I don't feel like Alhaitham, for me personally, is going to do enough for me to get him. As for the weapons banner, you might have kind of guessed where I was kind of going with this. Um, Overall, you don't need Freedom Sworn for Kazuha. You can. There's a lot of really good weapons you can get that will work just fine. If you have Alhaitham, Light of Foliar Incision is a very good weapon to yet, as far as I'm concerned. I would definitely give this banner a thought if you already have Alhaitham and you have enough wishes combined with your pity, your current pity on the weapon banner, to get two pulls. Because you, it takes three pulls to guarantee the weapon that you want. I'm not going to bother selecting, but you can select a weapon here. You would select the light of foliar incision if you're going for Alhaitham, and then your first time around, you have a 37.5% chance of getting that weapon. You have a 37.5% chance of getting Freedom Sworn, and you have a 25% chance divided among 10 different standard weapons. But then your second time around, it's a 50-50 shot against Freedom Sworn or Light of Foliar Incision. If you got the standard, a standard 5 star, if you got Freedom Sworn, it's exactly the same odds. And then your third time, if you're unlucky enough to need that third try, then it's a 100%. But there's a lot. There's not a lot of people who will go for three 5 star pulls on the same weapon banner unless they got a early um, early pity or early 5 star, I should say. But anyway, that would be my recommendation. The good thing about get if you end up with Freedom Sworn is good for just about any sword user that uses Elemental Mastery as their primary stat. So while you won't find a good alternate home for Light of Foliar Incision, you will find a alternate home for Freedom Sworn, should you so choose. So let's do a quick rundown of the 4 star characters because there are some that are worth talking about. I'm not going to cover everything on my little table here, but I will talk a little bit about the important things. Um, for Shangling, she is super easy to build up to level 90. Everything that you absolutely need is available as soon as you start the game. Power Registine is out in Leeway, but that is available right at the beginning of the game. The Julian chilies grow everywhere in Leeway. You won't have any problem getting enough of those. Slimes are easy to beat. Balin's easy to beat once you've finished the prologue. Um, Now, the only thing is that for Shangling, her best weapon and her best artifacts are both in Inazuma. My recommendation for her weapon is the catch. This is not only just my recommendation, but most of the uh, Genshin Impact uh, players that I've interfaced with say the same thing. If you can't get her to catch, the catch is a free weapon in Inazuma. All you have to do is fish, get a lot of fish, then you'll get it eventually. Um, if you don't have the catch, or if the catch is on somebody else, just put another ER weapon on her and you'll be just fine. I've heard people talk about using more DPS style weapons like crit weapons and attack weapons, and I would say don't do that. Her best artifact set is Emblem of Severed Fate. I just finished building her artifact set recently, and I can tell you, I tried a lot of other artifact sets that I thought, well, because I had to make a bunch of sets of Emblem of Severed Fate because I kept avoiding that. And then it was like, but there really is no other option that works nearly as well for Shangling. You could go if you're early in the game and haven't unlocked Inazuma and you want to build her now. I suppose you could do Gladiator Finale or some combination of Gladiator Finale and Wanderers, maybe even Crimson Witch. But in the end, it's going to be Emblem of Severed Fate. Hazo is probably going to be a really tough build, mostly because his Ascension boss and his Ascension gem does not match. Ruin Serpent, you get that unlocked as part of the Chasm, but it does not drop turquoise. So you're going to get some Dust of Azoth and switch other gems over to turquoise. Either that or you're just going to beat up some Anemo characters to get turquoise. Hazel also requires the Onikabuto, which can be a pain to find if you don't just simply pick them up and see them. Um, for Hazel, I would recommend a crit rate weapon or crit damage weapon. And like almost every Animo character, his best artifact set is probably Viridescent Venerer. I To be honest, I haven't even unlocked Yao Yao yet. Though I do remember her test run from last time. It wasn't too long ago. Um, she is a leeway character, but just keep in mind that you will need to go into Sumeru to get the Dendrohypostasis, which you probably can get even if you haven't started Chapter 3 yet. But as far as her talents go, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as we saw with Alhaitham. Daka's spell is dropped by a weekly boss that is only unlocked after you've finished Chapter 3, Act 5. Um, her best, her recommended weapon, Black Tassel for HP if you want to focus on her healing abilities, or you could just go with an EM uh, weapon. I'm sure would work fine. With Yao Yao, it's kind of a you're gonna be balancing either giving her HP to heal or EM to provide damage healing. So when looking at our artifact set, you could go the first two artifact sets are H will give you HP boosts and then another and then something else. Deepwood Memories is probably her best uh, personal attack set. Just remember, the more that you take away from her HP, the less healing she's. Um, Now, a quick look as far as what if you're wondering, should you be messing with the banners to get any of these C4 characters or these 4-star characters? Um, well, for Shangling, she is one of the characters I would say most people say is must build. You will get her for free by finishing floor 3 of the Spiral Abyss. And you can also get her in Paimon's Bargains on January and July. July is coming up next month, so there is going to be an opportunity to get her get at least 1 star for her without pulling if you don't have her at C6 already. Um, Overall, for Shangling, I looked at her constellations. Won't bother to put it up right now. I think her I think the C4 is going to be where most of where everyone is going to get the probably the biggest boost. Um, by the time you get to C4, her burst is going to be complete. You'll get the C3 will upgrade her burst by 3 levels. C4 is really good. C5 and C6 is going to depend. I think that those are really meant for Shangling if she's going to be in a team with another pyro user. So if you're using a double pyro team or a mono pyro team, if you're inclined to do something like that, then bring Shangling all the way to C6 is going to be worth it. Otherwise, C4 is going to be just fine. Um, I don't know much to say about Hazo. I would say that you'll probably get value out of his constellations, but I would say build them first and then see if you like them. I wouldn't go and get the constellations ahead of time because I don't think he particularly needs much as Shangling. And as for Yao Yao, I think the constellations help her in terms of being able to balance her healing and her elemental mastery attacks. It basically it helps by shouldering some of the heavy lifting that those numbers have to do. So if you wanted to build her as a pure healer initially, then the constellations probably won't matter too much. But as you get more of them, you'll be able to kind of chip away at that HP mountain that you may have created and add more to elemental mastery. So that would be my recommendation. If Shangling is C2 or below, then you may want to take a roll for her to see if you can get her to C3, knowing that you can get her to C4 next month with Paimon's. For the other two, it really comes down to whether you're using them or not, and if you are using them, then more constant, better. Probably going to be what I would say. Um, but that's it. I hope this new version of this test run helped out. In future versions, I may consider using this as well. But though I will always test out any new characters, whether they be 5-star, 4-star characters. Um, and so I hope you have a good time. Oh, leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, leave a comment, let me know everything I got wrong. I get things wrong all the time. It doesn't bother me if people point. Anyway, that's it. Later.